I know I had plenty of moments in the movie where I was like, plenty of WTF questions for me popped up in the movie. Everybody else around me seemed to be enjoying them, so I wasn't super worried about it. But do we have any just straight up WTF questions about the movie? And by we, I mean me, because my first one is Mewtwo a god? Is he like a full-on all-powerful
He's always been
god
insanely
thing?
powerful, but this movie like took it to a new level for me. Like I was like, okay, he can transfer souls, and then like the ending was just like tidied up way too easily. Like I forgot who turned to him, but they're like, "Can you fix this?" And he was like,
He's like,
"Yup,
"Sure."
I got you guys." Yeah, and then it was just like a arm wave or something, and then big balloons started deflating, and everyone transformed back, and I was just like, "Wow, okay, that's simple. I guess he's just that powerful." I don't know. You're the expert.
Well,
you explain.
In the anime and in the games, he just is a psychic and telepathic Pokemon who can like move things with his mind and shoot energy beams and stuff. And that was always the limit of his power. But he was always very powerful and was like a legendary Pokemon, like pretty much the all-time like greatest. But in this movie, they went way above that, and we're like, okay, now he can move souls and like combine people with Pokemon. That's a new one on me as a person who's been following Pokemon from the beginning. I was like, dang, they really just went in a new direction.
Just
and
a real blank check of a character, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like their whole thing was like, well, he's has the special thing that we were doing, like the research or whatever. Like he has extra powers.
DNA from
to
an
me,
ancient
that felt like
god
what
or
they're
whatever.
like, right? He has
Yeah.
extra powers. Let's end the movie now.
Yes.
Like that was kind of what it felt like. Because no, he shouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
It was insane. Like I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a big. That's
do
like
all
a
that
true
now. Like
true WTF question
Yeah.
for even Pokemon vets are like, oh, what now?
yeah. Sydney Torterra, like what the hell is going on there?
Okay, so there's this scene where, they show like the little Torterra, and you're like, haha, just you wait, because there's no way this is it. And then Psyduck uses Confuse or whatever he does, and then they're pissed off, and there's like this giant earthquake, and it becomes clear that there's like a bunch of very, very large Torterra. And my question is like, okay, and then they just are going back to sleep.
They just
and-
kind of sit down afterwards.
yeah, and like, shouldn't you alert people this seems dangerous? Like, you don't want to build on them. You would hurt them. Like, there were just so many layers of questions where everyone just seemed like, oh, well, they're not moving now. So, like,
Yeah.
it's
But it's
fine.
coming on
now.
the heels of a sequence in a lab where they were seeing all kinds of experiments on Pokemon to accentuate their powers and all this stuff. And then this isn't like contained in a lab. Like there is a literal mountain range of Pokemon just like out the back door.
Yeah. And they just walk away. Like they just walk out the
I
little...
thought that was actually very humorous.
They just,
like, well, that was crazy.
they just
I
sort
was
of
like-
casually walk out the hole that
Yeah.
they cut in the fence that
Or
they
even
came in.
that Tim, like, Pikachu was like gonna faint. I don't know what the analogy would be in this movie, but he was like not doing well, right? And so like Tim and Pikachu have this experience. Oh my gosh! And then the woman whose name keeps escaping me,
Lucy.
Lucy just pops up and she's like, "Oh hey guys, let's get in the car." And I'm like,
Yeah. Hey, what's wrong with Pikachu?
"Are we gonna ignore what just happened?"
Yeah, nobody's like terrified the fact that there's like giant, essentially like Pokemon kaiju. That what happens next time they wake up and they decide to walk into a city or something? Like that's a
Yeah.
whole other movie.
Yeah. We also need to talk about Rhyme City in general. It was really funny. Jim, one of our coworkers, he was like, so this is so nice. Like in Pokemon, like they just live in harmony and you find a Pokemon and you guys become best friends. It's like what the games are about. And I was like, no, actually, like you have to like use a Pokemon, beat them up, and then you capture them. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And then they're like in your collection. And he was like, this is wrong. I don't like this anymore.
From the outside looking in,
Yeah.
there's some dark threads to pull on with Pokemon.
But Rhyme City's completely different, right? So
Right. So it's weird by embracing how nice it is in Rhyme City for Pokemon to be treated as equals essentially and be, recognized as partners. They don't have to live in the Pokeball. There's no battling. The Roundhouse, they do have battles. That's like underground, like seedy battling. That's not like culturally accepted there. But then that shines a light on how bad like battling and stuff is in general and how like, so you're saying outside of Rhyme City, like Pokemon are essentially like slaves, and they're like essentially it's the dog fighting thing of like they're forced to battle like for their trainers like amusement and betterment, you know, and Pokemon are like hurting each other and like biting and setting on fire and like poisoning and paralyzing them and doing all these things for sport, for competition. And so suddenly it's like, oh wow, just when you look at Rhyme City, how could we ever like be okay with, you know, what we understand to be the core like Pokemon experience?
It's a strange indictment of literally the rest of Pokemon, as far as I can understand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And actually, okay, so you brought up the battle that we saw, obviously, was kind of like illegal. It wasn't really chill. And what does that mean for like experience points and leveling up and like how do you evolve? Like it just brought up a lot of questions for me. I mean, as somebody who my core Pokemon experience is with the games and like leveling these people up, like, well, Pokemon, what?
So the
Like, how does that
question is,
work?
if everybody's living in harmony and nobody's fighting their Pokemon,
And
how
how
do the
do they get
Pokemon
that
level up and
experience?
advance
Yeah.
and get?
Yeah, how do they evolve? How do they learn new abilities? Like,
Well, I guess you have a
It's
couple
just
exceptions.
another way to keep them down, man.
Like we saw that Eevee evolve into a Flareon, which
But that's
you
with a
used
stone
with a stone, so
anyways.
that's a workaround. But you're
that's-
right, for something like a Machamp, which we saw there
Yeah.
on the road, how did that evolve if it wasn't allowed to battle?
Yeah.
There's a scene early in the movie that takes place on a farm where there are clearly just Pokemon around. No cows, chickens, anything like that.
Yes.
And then when we get to Rhyme City, there's a lot of Pokemon in the service industry. A lot of Pokemon like waiting tables and stuff. What do they eat?
So actually, I want to read an entry from the Pokedex where about Farfetch'd, which is like a duck Pokemon who carries this leek that he uses to attack people with, like a stick. So it says, a wild duck Pokemon, Farfetch'd, makes a delicious meal, especially when cooked with leek.
Oh my god, no!
Because of this, Farfetch'd is nearly extinct.
Cooked with his own tool?
I
His
was
own weapon?
Oh my god, it's being encouraged in the Pokedex?
I know, right? They like have cooking recipes in like a tab on the Pokedex.
I also love the idea that some Pokemon are like delicacies, right?
Pokemon are food.
Magikarp,
Yeah.
Tauros, we were talking about that earlier. You could eat those too. So, but
Which
in this
again, like-
world, maybe they're all vegetarian. Sydney suggested that earlier. Maybe
That's
it's
a
not
possibility.
like
Like
that
right
in
for
the-
Rhyme City specifically, like maybe there's just like a don't eat your Pokemon.
Oh, God.
All right, well, that is it for our Detective Pikachu spoiler cast. And if you want more on Pokemon, then we have this awesome Poke Rap that breaks down all the Pokemon that we saw in the movie. Tom Jorgensen kills it. It's fantastic. And then, of course, Ending Explain. And as always, be sure to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.